Hello everyone. How is everyone doing?
Good.
This is a great meetup. And I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. My name is Suresh and I am a Pavia evangelist and I deal with all aspects of Pavia. How many of you have actually heard about Pavia? Quite a few. Wow. How many of you have used it? Okay. After this session, I guess you'll all be using it anyway. So I also run the Orange County Power BI user group, which we renamed very recently to Southern California Power Platform User Group. So what happened most recently is it's not just about Power BI. There is something called Power Apps, which is for form designs and putting all the design aspects of it. And there is something called Power Automate, which is like a workflow engine. So they are packaging all these three, and there is one more component called Power Agents. So they're packaging everything together and offering it as a framework. Okay. So we actually meet once a month, usually the last Thursday of the month, and we talk about one of these areas. Okay.
Are you trying to proceed?
Oh. Okay. So in this session, I'm going to talk about Power BI, what it is, and explain how you can get started, and we'll also do a demo of R and Power BI put together. This is about me. I've been in the industry for a little more than 20 years. In the data space for 10 years now. Azure Cloud since inception. I'm one of the Microsoft partners in the sense, we work very closely with them. Power BI since inception. General availability June 2015. Actually, it's been longer than this. I also speak at a lot of the events, Microsoft sponsored events. They call it SQL Saturdays. Anybody heard about SQL Saturdays before? Oh wow. So there is one coming up. There are a couple of them coming up. So there is the SQL Saturday event, which is sponsored by Microsoft partners. It's a free event. It's a great place to go and hear from some of the best people regarding SQL Server and Power BI or anything related to Microsoft data platforms. Okay? So if you're interested, I'll send you the link which has the dates. You can plan accordingly. Okay? That being said, I am going to dive into the concepts of Power BI. So how many people have worked with Tableau? Almost all of you. And then there is Power BI, right? So how do they match? I was a Tableau developer before I got into Power BI. Tableau was in this space longer. A great tool, no question about it. And then this area of self-service started heating up. These companies are going after people with, they want to empower the people, right? It's not about sitting and coding. They want to help people who don't want to code. What that means is there is a self-service component. That's where both of these tools are competing, along with a lot of other ones as well. Click, anybody? Oh. So a lot of you have used reporting in the past. There was a corporate web, in which case, SQL Server reporting services, anybody? Cognos?
Yeah.
So those are the tools, those are the reporting tools some time ago where somebody develops a report, They're going to deploy the report and people are just going to consume, right, the data. If there is any change, they go through the cycle. Request for a change goes through, developer makes the changes, deploys it, and the loop continues on. Changes happen every couple of days at the max, right? Because there is a longer loop to close. The second wave is self-serve. So why not empower the user? Give them the ability. So what that means is, developer actually readies up a lot of this, the data components, and the user is going to drag and drop and create a report on their own. Right? Good? It's going to be faster. But where we're headed to is the third wave, end user BI, where the end user will be able to do everything, including cleansing of data and putting the data together. Right? So that's where we're headed to. If you ask me, we're somewhere in between over here. But we're approaching this. And anybody heard about what citizen developers are? It's a new component, a new term that was coined recently. Okay, so citizen developers are these people who are going to do everything on their own, pretty much. That's where we are headed to. During this process, feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay, so this is as of Feb 2016. Anybody can recognize what this is? Gartner Magic Quadrants. This is like the gauge that Gartner company puts all these tools together and says, okay, this is how they stack up. So this is good. Anything closer to this is good. Anything closer to that is bad, right? Where is Microsoft Power BI? Is somewhere here. Tableau is a little bit ahead. Click is here.
When is that from? Is that 2016 or 18?
2016, yes. Okay, fast forward 4 years. This is where we are. Click has just remained where it is, and you can see some of these players don't exist anymore. So you can clearly see only Tableau and Microsoft are the two players that matter at this point of time. And again, things change all the time, but again.
What sector is this for?
This is for business intelligence.
Okay.
Part of the reason is every month Microsoft releases updates. Updates to the data management, updates to the visuals, updates to pretty much all the components that Microsoft Power BI has. So a lot of features are being added every month, and that has enriched the platform itself. Okay? So, what are the components of Power BI? You have Power BI Desktop, which is kind of the authoring tool. So if you want to create a report, you're going to start off with the desktop. There are two ways you can get the desktop. Either download and install, or you can get it from the marketplace. There is a Microsoft Marketplace where you can get it as an app, just like a cell phone app. And if you're getting started, use the app. The reason is it is automatically updated. You don't need to download the updates every month. So start off with the app from the marketplace, and let's go through some of the steps for creating a report. The first thing is you need to acquire the data. You have to connect to the data wherever it is. It can be Excel, it can be SAP, it can be Salesforce, it can be any format, any of these platforms, right? Power BI has about 90 different connectors to natively connect to this and get data out of there. Anybody heard about REST API? It's one of those interfaces, right? REST API is also supported. There is also ODBC connector in case you have to connect to a data source that is not part of this 80 different connectors. So the first step is connect to the data wherever it is. You're going to get data into Power BI itself. What does that mean? So if I have an Excel sheet that has like 10 million records, and I want to do analytics, and I want to create reports based on that, I connect to the Excel and literally bring all the data inside Power BI. As part of that, there is an engine within Power BI which compresses as you bring that in. Okay? So you bring it in and you do the cleansing part, because data is not meant for reporting. Data is data. Somebody created it for whatever reason. You have to bring it in and clean it, format it the way you want, and make it ready so it is easy to consume within the reports. Right? ETL tools, anybody? ETL?
Yes.
Extraction, transformation, and loading. You have something called Power Query. I heard somebody mentioning about Power Query a minute ago. Within this, you can do the cleansing part where you can say, okay, if this is in this format, change the format. For example, if date appears as text, you can change it to date format, right? And all these steps are actually captured. So at any point, if you want to undo one of these steps, you can cancel it out. So they made it very easy to kind of do all this logic and preserve the logic and take it from there. Okay? So that's about Power BI Desktop, an authoring tool for creating reports. That's what Power BI Desktop is. So once you create a report, what do? You need to share it with somebody, right? With your team, with your boss, with your management. How do you share? You need to publish it onto Power BI service. Power BI service is nothing but powerbi.com. Okay? So you have an account, you go ahead and publish that, and then there is something called workspace. You publish that onto a workspace. Workspace is nothing but, it is similar to a private folder. Let me give you an example. You're creating a Word document that is confidential, right? And you want to share it with your team and nobody else. How can you do that? You can create a folder, a private folder, and you're going to give access to your team members. So only your team members will be able to see it, right? Nobody else. Very similar concept. Reports deal with financial data a lot of times, or some confidential data. So you have to make sure that you put them in a place where you have these security boundaries defined. So you create a workspace, you deploy onto that workspace, and you give access to that workspace to the people who can view it. Okay? I'm going to take a pause. Any questions? Yes?
So if you publish your report
Yes?
and a user comes in to view it,
Yes?
is it going to re-crunch numbers so they see cast results without having to rerun the query?
That's a great question. So, I'm going to bring that question up. He was asking me, if we publish a report and somebody comes over and looks at that report, are you going to recalculate all those numbers? The numbers themselves are from the data source, right? So it depends where the data source, what the data source is set up as. If you connect to live data, it is going to pull the live data. Okay? If you are connected to a database, it gives you a snapshot of the database at that point of time. Okay? So the answer is, it depends. You may get live numbers, or you may get numbers at a period of time where the snapshot was captured. Okay? There are ways where you can refresh this data set though. Okay? And I'm going to go into licensing a little bit because it has implications across all these refreshes. Okay? If you want to get started with Power BI, it is for free. You can download Power BI Desktop, no worries. You can create reports. You can actually publish it on the Power BI service as well without paying a dime. The moment you want to share it with somebody, you need to have a license, both them and you. Okay? Pro license is the most minimum. You get $10 per. It is $10 per month per user. There is something called premium. license, which is much more expensive, but you get the industrial strength features. That is about $5,000 a month, but that is based on capacity. Okay? But for our discussion, you can just consider, pro license, you'll be able to do most of the things that you want. Premium, they have unlimited data storage. They used to have incremental loads. A few of those features which you'll get if you have premium. Okay. So we talked about desktop, we talked about service, and mobile. For mobile part, you just download an app for iOS or Android, and anything you deploy onto the Pavia service, you'll be able to see it. You don't need to redesign anything or look at any other factors. You develop once, you deploy, and you'll be able to see it across all the devices using that app. Okay? Questions? So this is pretty much what I was talking about. You bring in data first, and then you cleanse the data, you make it ready for the reports, and finally you deploy the reports to the Pavia service for general consumption. Okay? There is something that I wanted to get clarified. Report and dashboard. I mean, 90% of the people that I've met that are in the process of implementing get confused between report and dashboard. They are completely different. They have their own purpose. But if I have to summarize, the dashboard is at a summary level. The report is at a detail level. The dashboard within the realm of Power BI does not have filters or anything like that. It's just a bunch of tiles. So somebody shouldn't be spending more than a few seconds or minutes every day to get an idea about what's going on. No clicking, 0 clicks. If they want to get more detail, they are going to click on a particular tile, and that takes you to a report. Okay? So dashboard is at the highest level, which has all the summary information. It gives you visibility, the beautiful graphs and the bar graphs and the pie charts and all those things. And as soon as you click that, it's going to take you to a report. They are complementary to each other. You have to create a dashboard first in a lot of scenarios. That in turn links to the reports. I'll give you an example. HR, you create a report for HR with all the HR data, how many people are coming in, how many people we got hired, how many people have left the company. There's also a finance report that we created. What is our budget, how are our expenses, and things like that. The CEO of the company is interested in little pieces of both, right? He doesn't want the complete picture on HR, not the complete picture on finance. Just some components. So you're going to create a dashboard which summarizes this, and you're going to use the information from these two different reports to create that dashboard. Okay? So I wanted to emphasize that over here, the definition. And there are a few other differences as well. If you're using a Power BI report, there are slicers. The slicer is just like a filter. You can have multiple pages. You can interact with it. Drill downs. And all these features are available in Power BI report. Compared to a dashboard, which is automatically refreshed, you can share a dashboard by itself. You can customize just creating tiles. I'm going to demo all this shortly, but I'm going through this summary. There is also Power Q&A. Alerts, for example. You can set an alert and say, if my sales crosses $10 million, I want to get alerted. You're going to get an alert. You're going to get an email saying that, okay, you set this threshold. It's like an alarm, right? You set it, and it's going to send you a message once you hit that threshold. Okay? So to summarize, dashboard is a day-to-day single page view of the main KPIs. Within this world, it's all about KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. What are we measuring? How are we doing against the measure these KPIs? Okay. Report is an interactive visualization, and you can do the slicing and dicing of data, investigate numbers and things like that. Any questions? Just an overview of the licensing. I was just telling about Pavia free, right? You can get started without any fee. If you want to share, you need a pro license at a minimum. There is also a premium. It is based on number of nodes and capacity. Okay? And there is also Power BI embedded. For example, you want to create a report and put it on your public website. You don't know how many people are going to view that report, right? Your website may be exposed to 10,000 people today, 20,000 people tomorrow, 30,000 people the next day. So in that scenario, there is something called Power BI embedded, and the licensing of that works very, it is very similar to Power BI Premium. It is based on nodes. It's like web server, right? You increase the capacity as needed and turn it down when you don't. Okay? There is also Power BI report server. If you don't want to go on the cloud, I've seen a lot of companies, financial companies and healthcare companies, they don't trust the cloud yet. So they need something that sits on their premises, in which case you can use Power BI report server. The licensing of that is, you can buy that separately. It is part of the Power BI Premium, or it is going to be something called software assurance license. So there are a couple of ways you can get it. What that means is Microsoft discourages that option. They don't make any money on it. Questions?
Are you going to show us a report?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So how are we doing on time? Well,
Because my experience has been with like Tableau, you don't just share a report. You typically try and tell a whole story, and you've got lots of little
yeah,
widgets.
yeah, that's,
Okay.
I mean, concept, that's pretty much what we're doing. So I just have 9 more minutes. I'll do a couple of quick demos and talk about R, where it fits into the picture. So if I have to show you a report, for example, this is an executive dashboard that was designed some time ago. But I have to change the numbers because I can't show the client data, right? So some of these numbers are fudged. Like you're saying, the central idea is, excuse me, this should tell you a story. The story I'm trying to tell is, we have set targets for sales, and we're doing good on the targets that we set. When designing this, usually the top, our human eye goes through this, right? The top left corner, it's like reading a book. Top left corner, and we read top to bottom, right? So the top, very important stuff should always be on the top left corner. And as you traverse, it's going to be like less important, more like analysis. And pretty much everything is interactive. These are the filters that we have. So if I want to look only at 2018, you click at 2018, and you can see everything else is changing, right? This is 2018 and 2019 put together. Right? So this whole thing, I have not done a single line of code. Everything is just drag and drop, because we're able to create a model, and when I set a model, you bring in data from different places and you lay it out here and you relate this, just like database modeling if you're familiar with it. Okay, and you tie the data together, and after that it's just dragging and dropping and creating this report. Okay? Any questions on this?
Yes, what happens when you rub the lamp?
Great question, I'm getting there. Very recently, they have launched this, they have launched this before. We call it the Genie, and this is what we created. It's not provided by Microsoft or anything like that. So if you click that and say, okay, sales by country, right? I'm getting all the sales by country as map. So I can just do a free, type in text and it's going to give me the answers. So why create 10 different reports? Give them the basic and then include this Q&A feature. It is out of the box. And then as you're typing in, you can say, this has about 70 different commands it's going to recognize. You can say total sales, average sales, you can say by country, sales by country, by zip. So this is a big report, right? A lot of zips as table. There are too many records, so it's thinking a little bit, but I was able to get the results I was looking for, right? So you don't need to create a report. Give them the ability, give the end user the ability. This is all out of the box again. And if your users are looking for something specific, you can add this as a question, right? Make it, give it a permanent place. And if you hook the AI engine, it says, okay, it looks like you're searching for sales by country. By day, by month, why don't you try something else? And it gives suggestions as well. Questions? Okay, I have 5 more minutes, so I'm going to make the best use of these 5 minutes that are left. I'm going to dive into R and show you where R fits into the picture. R, as you know, is the statistical modeling. I mean, you guys know it better than me. I am not an R guru, but R has existed long before Pavia did, and they have a robust set of. It's a robust platform. Pavia, is a very robust platform itself. So what happens is they're hooking it together in the sense, if you create something in Pavia, like a visual, and you click on it, it is going to go back and execute the R script, and you're going to see the results, with the changes as we see. So I'll open this up. This is a report that was created some time ago by my team and myself. So if you see here, we did it as a demo. We pulled all the airlines that are available, and we're like, let's look at each segments, how profitable they are, what is the load factor, what are the destinations, and things like that. Okay. This is an R visual. This is an R visual, and this is like a Power BI visual. Right? So for initiating this, I need to go here to the options, and I have to point to where the R libraries are. Okay, I go to here, point it to where the R script libraries are. When your libraries work, but Microsoft also has a flavor of R, which they say they have optimized for Microsoft platform. For me, when I tried, I didn't make any, I didn't observe any difference. They're as effective as any other libraries. But if you see, this is Microsoft R, OpenR 3.5.2 is what I'm using. Okay, so you have to download, configure the R libraries first within Power BI, and then you have to use this This is an R visual. So you click on it, it gives you a choice. It's like a placeholder. And that's how we have created this, right? So I'm going to go here. So any kind of, I can specify what kind of editor I want. I selected RStudio. So anytime I want to edit, it's going to open up the RStudio for me. And as I click each one of this, you can see. Do you see the difference? Right? Each of these segments, because they are using the same data set and they are referencing the same data set, I don't need to do any additional coding. The selection I make over here, it is going to be reflected here automatically. Right? So within Power BI, there are a lot of visuals that are available. When I say visual, this is a visual, this is a visual. All this beautiful looking. Okay, I can go to the marketplace and I can import a visual if it is not available. But R has a robust set of visuals as well, which you can leverage, right? And this is one way we can leverage, right? Just reference them and start using them using this R script. Any questions?
So is there like an R library that you load in that links into Power BI and then the data is exposed as a data frame, or? Like
Yeah. So if you see, this is the logic behind, right? I'm using the maps library, the geosphere, the map project, and I'm actually using the data set, a reference to the data set, in which case, in any changes I make, is going to be reflected.
So Power BI is basically triggering a script to run
Exactly.
on R. The output of that script is then getting pushed back to Power BI and getting rendered on Power
Exactly. That's the flow. You start off with the trigger, I make a selection, call goes, gets executed, and the result is going to get, the results we're going to see on the report itself. Okay? And R has all these libraries, and I played around with very few of them, but there is something called Power Query. So this is a Power Query editor. You can start. You can go ahead and start writing your script over here. By default, Microsoft has something called M language for transformation. So within Microsoft Power BI, two languages are very important. DAX, which is data analysis expressions, which is used for like formulas and calculations. M is for mashups, and if you want to change the structure of a table, do transformations, you have to use M. It is on the back end, so you can do an R call directly from M. You can invoke a library. Okay, I have a sample somewhere, I'll go ahead and bring it up. Any questions? This is a sample somebody has put together with all these different R as well as Power BI visuals put together. So if you make a selection, you can see all of these are getting executed. Right? If I open up the editor for this is a very simple, right? The ggplot. Anybody familiar with ggplot? I'm using the ggplot and the code plot within this. And it is a very simple call, and I'm saying this is the color, this is what it is, and I was able to get it up and running.
Where is this from?
Where
is this project from?
I created this project,
Oh, okay.
but usually I share it. Probably you can put it on a shared drive or something like that.
Can you share it without breaking our bank?
Absolutely, I promise you that. It's actually on a shared drive right now, because we've gone through this session at our user group as well. And after we were done, I put all these libraries in there, and you'll be able to download it. Any questions?
So is there any real restrictions on what you can do? Like it looks like that you can take data in, do any R transformations and put it back out.
Yes.
And Power BI will render it. But it also looks like you can take renderings from R and have them as being visual objects
Right.
within Power BI.
Yes.
Is there any real restrictions?
To that extent, not many, but when you take this and publish it onto the Power BI service, there are a few restrictions on the type of visuals that you can use and the number of points, and there are quite a few, but none of them are like, unless you reach like 15,000 plotted points, like this is a plotted point, right? You don't run into those restrictions. So I'm like, yeah, we have some limitations which we can use as a reference, but yeah, apart from that, not a whole lot.
And then what type of input controls do you get?
Um,
Like, can you have somebody type something in and cause an R script to be triggered, or control a slider?
No, I mean, this is pretty much like, right, you know what, the essential idea is, they make a selection somewhere on a different visual, and that triggers everything else to get repainted, recalculated and repainted. That is pretty much the kind of input we're going to have.
Gotcha.
Make a selection. For example, if you're displaying 1 year's worth of data by each month, you click a month and everything else gets repainted and adjusted to that particular month. But once in a while we do run into issues with the references of that library. Sometimes that drives me crazy. But that's because, you know, I'm not that familiar with R. But this has been a great experience. I've put some of these visuals for my clients. They just love it. The map one especially, they love the map visual. And ggplot or coreplot has been, you know, the two most used in the visualization that we do. Yes, sir.
I'm assuming it's there, but I haven't seen any examples. You have just a plain text box where you put narrative text? Or are these all just chart widgets lined up on the screen?
They are chat widgets. I created as a
You
lab.
can do text.
Do you have just a regular text box to put your
Text
narrative?
box, yeah. What was the, I mean,
I
what?
just haven't seen an example of a text box where you just have narrative text on your
Yeah.
report page.
No, we can have that as well. Yeah, it's just that I didn't needed it here, so I didn't put it.
Could you clarify a little about the different versions you were showing? You were showing the free,
Yes.
is free.
So
but
I'll take a step
can't-
back.
But you can't share.
Yeah.
But then you're saying you're gonna share a file with us. So if you wanna put a sample Power BI
Right.
report
Yeah.
or a package
Yeah.
with data, with sample data
Right.
for demonstration
Uh-huh.
purposes up on like GitHub.
Right. So let me clarify on that. Word, just like Word has doc, right? Power BI's extension is called PBIX. Okay? PBIX is nothing but a glorified version of a zip. Actually, you can rename it as a zip and go inside and take a look at the contents. Not all the contents are visible, but you can see some of those images. If you are using images within your project, you will be able to see that. Okay? That itself is a package, and I can share it with anybody with no restrictions at all. I can share it with you. Okay? The restrictions come into place when I am publishing this to a web, the PowerBI.com, right? So let me go to the Power BI service. This is the ultimate place, and I'm running over. I'm going to do this real quick and then hand it over. Sorry.
Great.
So this is the dashboard, right? This is a Power BI service. So once you create a report, you want to put it in, you want to publish it somewhere and share it with other people, right? This is where the restriction is. Sharing the PBIX file, there is no restriction at all. No licensing will come into it.
Okay, but you're saying share somewhere.
Yeah.
This is Microsoft's
This is Microsoft.
SaaS.
Yeah, SaaS application, so to say.
But what if you wanted, you also mentioned if you want to put it on your website, you would then need the embedded.
Right.
Because it's still being hosted by the embedded URL.
All right, I'll answer that separately,
Okay,
but thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me regarding Pavia.